Up next, let's see here. Our next topic is about immigration law. While there are so many options to consider, and while there's no one size fits all solution, knowing your options can help make things easier. The speakers in this next section will start off with a general overview of immigration laws and then move on to discuss the different types of visas available depending on your profession. Get more insights on navigating the maze of immigration options for professionals today. From our upcoming speakers, Petro Kostiv, Doctor of Law at Kostiv Associates, and Ying Yang, co-founder and partner at Zenmo Law of the Future of Law. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Today we have a lot of people, and we will be discussing today some issues about immigration law. Ying will introduce the general topics, and then we'll have a chat where we will clarify all the doubts that you might have.
Hello, everyone. I guess we'll start with a self-introduction first. So my name is Ying. I am the co-founder and managing partner of Zenmo Law. We are not only a law firm specialized in immigration and corporate law, but also a platform that wants to subvert the traditional legal industry that connects our clients and to our attorneys. We are a one-stop legal solutions provider that wants to bring the legal industry to the next level, to its 2.0 era. And Petro, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Ying. My name is Petro Kostiv. I'm the owner of Kostiv Associates, a law firm. We have two big offices. Actually, we have three, but two cities. One office with 2 floors in Los Angeles, and we have 2 offices in Miami, Florida, which one is in Doral and one is in Brickell. And we provide a wide range of immigration law services. Our main group of clients come from Latin America and also from the former Soviet bloc. We would like to develop more into Asia to get clients from China and India. And we are looking forward to this fruitful discussion.
Well, as your alternative options, our clients are actually mainly from China and the Asian markets. So a lot of them are from mainland China, Hong Kong, Singapore, Thailand. We have our clients from Dubai as well. All of them are from those time zones. And our office is currently based in Manhattan, New York. And we have our office over there with a crew member of more than 20 people and some paralegals and lawyers. We're specialized in all kinds of legal demands that could be addressed by our clients who want to immigrate from all the parts of the globe, from all these areas, and to the United States.
My big observation about immigration law in context of the world affairs is the following. The more problems exist in other countries, the busier immigration law becomes.
Exactly.
You know, the more problems, like for example, Latin America right now has a lot of communist-oriented presidents. We have a lot of Latin Americans coming to seek better life in the United States. How is this about Asia?
It's actually the same situations. So the whole immigration trends actually fluctuate according to the policies, the political environment of China and all those other kinds of areas. For example, if there is a market crash, then that would bring a lot of entrepreneurs and some entity holders. They want to find a better environment, some better opportunities overseas. That's why that would make the trend of immigration. And recently, due to the pandemic, we are also having some type of policies that restrain some Chinese nationalities, and then they are seeking ways of getting out of the border as well. That would largely depend on the situation and circumstances of policies and environment. I mean, the animals, they have the great migration, and all of them want to go to somewhere better.
Where they have more
Yeah,
water.
and that's what humans would do as
Yeah.
well.
So how would you summarize main options for your clientele and for the public in this room?
Well, for our target audiences, that might be a little different from the other stories, because for Chinese and Indians, all these people, they have the largest population with the need of immigrate to China, to United States, or to some other countries like Canada. And these people, they have limited amount of quota of getting their green card or citizenship. So some of them cannot get direct green card or permanent residency at once. So they might need to travel to the United States first, or maybe get a work visa, or maybe study here first. I know that might be a totally different story for you, Petro, for your Latino clients, right?
Well, for Latin America, we have a very broad range of services. They are different because versus Chinese because they don't really have many limitations. If they do have some specificities related positions, it's usually a benefit. Like for example, they give Venezuela special status. They give Cuban Adjustment Act. So long as you get to the United States and you are Cuban, then it's easier. So because maybe historically, I don't know what was, United States has a lot of influence in Latin America, but there's a lot of options for Latin Americans. And a lot of Latin Americans, like I said, they are seeking a better life, and there are options for business people, but many times business people don't have time to organize their business visas, so they come and they ask for asylum because something happened to them and they don't have time to wait for business visa approvals. They just want to run away from where they are. There are family options, and of course, there are business options like which you can summarize.
Yes, of course. Actually, under the immigration law, all of the options over there are all the same. But I know for some reasons, there are some treaty countries, and I'm sure some of the Southern American countries, they are within one of those, because China is not definitely one of these countries who are having the privilege of getting those benefits. Other than that, it's all the same for immigration options. If you want to get a permanent residency, it's usually either employment based or family based. And for employment based, which I can talk a lot more about, since these are what my clients usually want for their immigration options, it's usually EB1 to EB5. And for each category, there might be some subcategories inside of it. For example, EB categories, they are all employment based, and there are some different types of preference. EB1, it's the most stringent category that you might have, and it has the most requirements for the applicants, but it has the most benefits for them as well. EB1A is the employment-based first preference green card. If you want to apply for that, then you have to prove that you have extraordinary ability in either business, arts, or science, healthcare, any kind of industries. And to prove all these eligibilities, you have to at least satisfy 3 out of 10 requirements listed on the USCIS website. And for some other employment-based categories, there are some different requirements and eligibilities when you apply for them. And recently, when we were talking, we talked about EB5, investor program. And I know that you always wanted to explore your business on EB5 because this is a very trendy and popular options that some of the investors who are looking into. And Absolutely. We are also developing our EB5 businesses. And these are actually some of the most popular options that our global citizens are looking into. For example, for EB5, the minimum amount of investment has increased to 800 grand. So as long as you have the money, there's no requirement on your applicant. You don't need to prove that you're extraordinary at all, or you don't need to prove that you have English speaking ability, or you have your majors and your degrees. You don't need to prove anything at all. Only need to get those money into the investment into a U.S. entity, and then create 10 native job duties, and that would be all. You can just grab your family, grab your luggage, and then get into the border.
Speaking about those 10 jobs, I've had people asking, and so you create 10 US jobs.
Yes.
That has to be for US citizen or US green card holders, no?
It can be green card, permanent residency, and citizenship.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And how long do you have to keep those 10 jobs?
You need to keep it at least for 2 years, because the whole application procedure will last about 2 years. And there is a condition of removal for EB5. I know maybe asylum might have this, and family based they have condition of removal as well. For the first 2 years, you get a temporary green card. It doesn't mean that you can live here permanently, because after 2 years, you need to still prove that you have all those jobs still there, and your money is still invested in these projects, and they are gaining some profits and getting all those tax return paper to prove that it's still working. You are still investing, and then after 2 years, you're going to get your permanent residency.
And speaking about the source of money for investment, I know it's a very important issue because
Yes.
a lot of immigrants come to the United States and they have money, but United States wants to know how did you make that money? Because they want to make sure it's not money laundering, it's
Yes.
not criminal activity. So how do you go about submitting those documents? Do you do some sort of background check on your clients? You don't care, maybe? What's the procedure in general for immigrants and in your firm?
Definitely. As you mentioned, the sourcing of the money and the investment is very important. It's not only our concern, but also the USCIS will go through all these background check about where the money came from. They need to know that how you make this money, where did you get them, and how did you transfer all of these from other currencies to US dollars and then invest in the US entity. This is a very important issue that USCIS may want to look at. So they would generate some kind of procedures to get into the survey of how you made this money. So in the filing materials that the USCIS requests you to file, you need to prove and you need to submit. All these documents would contain the sourcing of these money. And what we need to do as a lawyer, as an attorney in this procedure, we just follow step by step of what USCIS provide with us, the guidance and the instruction, and all these documents would be submitted to the USCIS. But for our concern is not that we don't care about it at all, because we have to make sure our clients, they are from a clean background. We don't want to do anything that is out of the legal area, to help some of the illegal source of income, to put that into an investment into America. We don't want to do that. So we do have this background check procedure within the whole application process as well.
Yeah, very good. And also, there is this concept of when you invest in like pool of investors, what do you call regional centers?
Regional
no?
centers.
Regional centers. Is it still pretty famous?
It's
Popular?
very famous. Since 2005, when they introduced the concept of regional centers and the investor program, and then all of the investors are looking into that program. Before then, EB5 is not popular at all because it's very stringent process of surveillance, and the processing time is very long. So some of our clients, they just get their EB5 green card and they submitted their application in 2015. So they have waited for 7 years. Until today, they got their green card. It's a very long procedure of waiting period. So EB5 was not that famous, not that popular because of their long procedure and their very hard approval rate. And then after regional centers are introduced, the investors don't need to directly invest in one program. They can just invest in all those government and USCIS approved centers with a lot of other programs and other investors together. Everyone just put their money into one project and then they can get their permanent residency. Because for one huge project, it can create for sure 10 US jobs. And then as long as your money is clean, and you will get those green card. And not to mention that there is target TEA, what we so call the targeted employment area. These areas, they have a lower minimum amount of investment. It's 800 grand compared to 105 grand in the direct investment or other regional center. And these TEA programs has also been proved as a very beneficial option for all those immigrants around the globe.
And in your experience, let's say Asian clients, Chinese clients, they usually choose to do regional centers, EB5s through regional centers, or EB5s through their own business?
So direct investment versus regional center. I would tell you over 96% of the applicants would choose regional centers based on the reasons that I mentioned above. It has a lower minimum investment amount in the TEA programs, and you don't need to be participating into the direct operations and management of the projects. Regional centers, they're going to hire some professional managers on operating it and making it come true and also making the profits. You don't need to be in person working on those projects at all. You just put those money and you file those documents and then you sit and wait for your green card. So this is another benefit. And so based on all these benefits, a lot of the immigrants, they want to choose with the regional center.
And usually when immigrants come, they want to bring their wives,
Yes.
husbands, children.
Yeah.
What are the options for, let's say, for a businessman who wants to bring his wife and 3 children? Do they get immigration benefits too as a consequence of applying for EB5, or what happens?
For EB5, and I'm sure for most other U.S. immigration options, you can always bring your family. Family meaning your spouse and your children under 21 years old who are unmarried. I'm sure you are aware of that as well, Petro. And all these family members, they can come with you with a derivative visa of any kind of the category the main applicant is filing for. For example, EB2 for your spouses and your married children, they are usually coming to the border with the E33 and E34 visa. And for some other kind of categories, not only green card, permanent residency, but also work visas. For example, H1B, you can always come with the H2 visa. And F1, you can come with the F2 visa for your family. So I think the immigration law has protected the immigrants and their family quite a bit. Not to mention they have a whole visa category for the family-based visa. So, Petro, you are a professor and an expert on the family-based visa. Maybe you can tell a little more about how you can bring your family and your children here.
I tell you that family-based visas are very complicated. There are different ways how you can fix, depends on circumstances. On the circumstances how you came to the United States. Let's say, for example, if you came illegally to the United States many years ago and you just stayed in the United States, then you got married, you have children, then you can do a waiver. Waiver means the government basically forgives you
Yes.
for your illegal entry. So from being inadmissible, they make you admissible, then you have to go through process, but only if you have a clean criminal record. However, you can also come to the United States with a legit visa. You can come with a business visa, you can come with a tourist visa, you can come with a student visa, and then you can also get married. So that happens, then you do what's called adjustment of status.
Yes.
So from a non-immigrant visa visa means that you don't have the intent to stay in the United States forever.
Right.
You adjust your visa into a immigrant visa. Immigrant visa means you want to live in the United States. So these are just general summaries, but like you mentioned, Ying,
Yeah.
the concept is very similar in business and family.
Right.
There is this initial process. You apply for a visa, EB-5, same as I-130.
Yes.
Then you have a test period.
Right.
EB-5 is for your test for business, so they want to make sure that your business is real. And adjustment of status, I-130, based on marriage, there is a test period to see if your marriage is not fake.
Exactly.
So you have to stay, business has to stay for 2 years before you get your permanent status, and then your marriage has to stay for 2 years. And then we have cases that someone gets married and they can't survive those 2 years, either because the husband becomes super abusive, against his foreign wife. And he says, you know what, I'm not going to sign the final paper, so you're never going to get your papers. And they terrorize women, and we've seen it quite a lot. It's very unfortunate.
Oh.
But she can still get visa because of the circumstances. And there are situations when someone marries for papers, and they can't prove those 2 years. They go for interviews, they can't prove those 2 years, they end up being deported because they, not deported, maybe denied and eventually deported because their marriage was a sham marriage, fake marriage, which is a big immigration fraud. And unfortunately, it's way too common in the United States that people marry for money, and people get in a lot of trouble for that. And it's a big federal offense.
Yeah, and talking of that, not only marriage can become a fraud situation, and some of the other applicants who are in either business or employment-based or study-based visa, there can still be shams. So some of them has made up their degrees and their working experiences where they took part and where they work, and these can also be some fraud situation where people want to get into the United States. There are just too many ways to be a part of the citizen, and then they would spare no effort in getting into the border. And this has become a very huge problem, especially for the employment-based one. For H-1B lottery, there has been a very large and contradictory topic on the abuse of H-1B. Some of the applicants trying to get their H-1B visa approved in their lottery, they would get very very large number of the companies sponsor for their H-1B visa so that they can have a bigger chance of getting the lottery, getting selected as the H-1B applicant. This is not rare occasions, and I'm sure you've seen a lot as you have practiced in this area for decades, right?
Yes, and in what about visas when you have business in your country, and then you come here and you want to open an office, like office from your main country. I'm talking about L visa,
L1 visa,
L1 visa,
multi-nation
e-
executive and manager visa, L1
Do you want
visa.
to comment on basic requirements so the audience can
Yes,
see?
of course.
Remember, because we have a lot of international people that come to this conference, and they have businesses in China, in India, in Dubai, and in Europe, and maybe they would consider opening an office in the United States.
Of course. This is one of my most familiar areas since most of our clients are using the L1 visa and ultimately EB1C green card to get into the border. This is how they complete their whole immigration procedure. And for L1 visa, as Petro mentioned, this is for some multinational executives and top managers who are overseas. They want to transfer their businesses and set up another branch in the United States. This would have to be a very close relationship between the two companies. It can be either your subsidiary companies or mother, parent and children company. But in this company relationship, you have to prove that one of the companies would have to take up over 51% of the share of the other one. And then the applicant itself, there will be some other requirements for the applicant as well. You have to prove that in the past 3 years, and you work for this overseas parenting company for a consecutive of 1 year, 12 months in this company as an executive or manager job. This, we're talking about L1A visa. And we also have L1B visa. That's for multinational company who are some professional skilled workers. You don't have to be a manager or an executive to be transferred from other overseas company to the United States to set up your new branch. And talking of setting up your business or creating your new office in the United States, there might be some different scenarios. For example, you already got one company here. In that case, your L1A applicant, you will get a maximum of 7 years of period to stay in the border. The initial visa stamp would be granting 3 years of entry, and then you have to extend for a 2 year after the 3 years is up. But if your office is not set up yet in the United States, then there will be only a 1 year duration of stay at your very first initial stamp. But still, it's going to be a 7 years in total of your stay in the United States. Yes.
I have another important questions, and we can share our experiences.
Of course.
What are the main reason that immigrants' business visas get denied? What are the main factors from your experience that UCIS just denies? Maybe it's distrust, lack of cooperation on client's part, lack of evidence. What have you seen in your practice?
Well, I would say there are various of reasons that you might get denied. And recently, from what I have discovered, one of the very most situations I've seen why they got denied is they didn't get a good entity or a good retained attorney to handle your cases. Because as I mentioned, there is a very huge immigration trend going on right now in the whole Asia area. And then there are some other relative sub-intermediary companies who are trying to get this profits, but they are not licensed attorney. They are not practicing barred lawyer, but they still want to get the money out of it. They're not professional at all. And then we've received some denied cases from these, you know, these companies handle cases. They got denied, and they have some bad report in the USCIS record. But then we have to turn it around. That would make the whole working period and the job and very difficult because there are already some bad records in the USCIS files. So I would recommend for anyone who is trying to immigrate, try to find some very professional and the relative law firms or attorneys like Petro and Zenmo Law to take a very good look at your case, get preparation, and make sure all the files you are filing that is submitted according to the request of USCIS. That's what I would suggest.
Yeah, no, that's true, and because even in Latin American market, we have a lot of people that claim to be attorneys while they're
Right.
not attorneys,
Yes.
and they call them notarios. And I can imagine that similar situation
Right,
in the Asian
exactly.
market. They call them immigration consultants, something like
Right,
this.
right.
Yeah.
But they don't have a bar or anything.
And it's very dangerous for the immigration community because people get very ambitious about getting U.S. papers, and then they become victims, and they got these denials, and they cannot reapply sometimes because they can be barred for fraud, where they didn't mean to defraud anyone simply because someone submitted documents improperly or lied on their behalf without their permission, which is fraud is big issue in immigration law. And no, these are super important issues. I don't know how much time we have because time for questions, or how does it work now?
Well, it
Or
depends on you. Or maybe do you have some other takeaways you want to mention on immigration law?
Yeah, I have a question about to you, and what is the main message, in your opinion, based on your practice, for the immigration business community? Let's say someone decides they want to immigrate to the United States. If you were to put a plan of 5 points, what would you say?
So you're asking for anyone who is trying to
Business immigrant who
business
wants
immigrants.
to come to the United, or in general immigrants, because like we discussed, the concept is the same, basically,
Right.
very similar.
So 5 points they need to be aware of when they want to make their immigration plan. The most important thing is the timeliness issue. You have to plan ahead, especially for those who need to do the adjustment of status. If you are already in the border, please be aware of your status right now, when it will get expired, and when you need to get preparation for your adjustments of status or filing for another petition to change your current immigration status. This is very important because I've seen so many situations. Our clients, some of them are international students who are already studied, having their degree in the United States, and they're not aware of their status at all. They don't know when their F1 or 7th record is going to be expired. And then they just miss the timeline. That would make their stay over here completely illegal. The overstay situation would be a massive problem for you for your upcoming filing petitions, and if you want to do adjustment of status. This is very dangerous. Although our international students, they might be too young to be aware of that, but timeliness is usually the biggest issue for you when you want to work or travel or visiting in the United States. And your legal status is the most important thing for you and the most important guarantee to stay in the United States legally and then work, getting married, or, visit, have fun, study, or maybe build your business. So be aware of your legal status. If you are an international resident, this is the first important thing that I want to tell you. Maybe we can go one by one. Your
Yes.
first opinion on immigration.
My first point is it's critical to choose a proper legal representation because you really have to find someone who understands this, who's specialist in what you want to accomplish. Because immigration law is also super big. Let's say, for example, if someone comes to me and asks, "Hey, would you like to help me with religious visa?" I've never done a religious visa, for example. So, but if you ask me to help them with family-based visa or L1 visa, and I've done a whole bunch of those, then I know I can really, really help that person. So it's very critical to get proper legal representation. Then I'll go to point two. Then point two is to be very organized and collect all the evidence you need for your case. Extremely critical not to assume that, oh, I have a lawyer, then I don't have to do anything. My lawyer will do everything for me, which is a big mistake because remember, you have the evidence, you have all your bank statements, you have all the evidence. You have to show that you are creating business, that you made your money clean, honestly. So you have to be very well organized in order to help your own case. The best clients and the most successful clients, in my opinion, are the clients that care about their own case very much.
Well, based on what you said, I do want to add on one point. For clients, I do think that being patient is also very important. For my cases, most of my clients, they care a lot about their cases, sometimes even too much. They overly getting on top of their cases, and then they are rushing on the whole procedure. They want the USCIS to get their opinions back as soon as possible, which I do understand because that would affect your duration of stay in the border. You are counting on the um, the jurisdiction from USCIS on your case because you would need that documents to continually stay in the border or maybe make your travel plans or your other business plans later on. But just hear me out. Lawyers, we want to get the top on your cases, but we have a lot of clients. And for USCIS, they have more cases. Everything is sending to their center, their service center, either California, Nebraska, Virginia. They are receiving piles and piles of application materials every single day, and they need some time to process all these information. I know some of the clients, they are sometimes out of their temper. They're like, why am I not still getting the response from USCIS? Because they are also human beings. All these officials, they need time to review your documents. It's not like I submitted my document yesterday and I want the response right away today. If you do want your case to get expedited, pay for the premium processing fees. But I have to remind you that it's going to a totally different procedure, and that would make the files go to another group of USCIS officials, and they would consider why you are expediting the procedure. Is that necessary, or do you have some other purposes that I'm not aware of? They would get more cautious on your cases. So depending on the situation, sometimes it's the best to pay attention to your timeline. Be on top of the timeliness so that you won't get that impatient on the result that you're waiting on. That's my second point.
Yes, and my third point would be to cooperate with your attorney. It's very important because I've seen some cooperate means to have healthy relationship with your attorney, because some clients, like you said, over cooperative, then they become a problem for their own case.
Yes.
But some clients simply do not want to cooperate, and they assume that if you have a lawyer, then he will do everything for you. And when something goes bad, what they do, they blame their own attorney.
That's two extremes that we want, that we don't want for from our clients.
That's right. That's right. And therefore, I think that it's very important to educate your own clients, to set expectations to your clients. At the beginning of the representation, so there is no no craziness, throughout the process. And we were supposed to touch on 2 more points each, but we only have few minutes left. So maybe you want to, yeah, and maybe say some conclusions and.
Sure. In conclusion, I would say this is the immigration era for every single one around the globe to the United States. I know people, they always migrate for their better needs, for a better environment, a better opportunity, and some better chances for their family, for their business, for their development. And I would say this is the era for immigration. So get prepared early so you won't miss the chance. Right now, the policies for immigrating to America, it's very beneficial. And there is a lot of privileges if you are from the treaty countries as well. And for other employment-based visas, there are also some very good policies going on. Those regulations are pro for your immigration status. You have less waiting time. You have less stringent regulations and requirements for filing your petition. So this will be the time for you and your family to get prepared to immigrate to United States. And from my opinion, the all-time favorite and all-time greatest country in the world, this will provide you your new home and your new opportunity for your life.
Thank you, Ying. Thank you for your contribution today. They are super, insightful and enriching. And my final words would be that, as Ying mentioned, right now is good time to immigrate. United States economy, even though maybe it's not at the best stage, but it's still gonna grow all the time. And the United States will always need a lot of immigrants to, for new businesses. America is always ambitious about new projects, so there will be always space for new immigrants. And immigration law is very broad and complex. It's actually considered the most complex law in the United States because it changes all the time and has a lot of exceptions and a lot of details. Therefore, it's important to hire good lawyers. It's important to work with your lawyers, and it's important to stay organized. And if you have all these requirements, then you will have, United States as your new country, like Ian said, for your children, for your wife, and United States will also benefit. And thank you so much for your attention, and we're looking forward to the conference in Dubai.
Thank you, Petro, and nice talking to you all about immigration. And if you have some more questions, we'll be staying around a little bit in the conference room. And I guess that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.